Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 7th planning meeting of the Pine-Richland School Board. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Ms. Williams.
Mr. Lyons.
Here.
Mrs. Misbach.
Here.
Mr. Kashani.
Here.
Dr. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. DiTullio.
Here.
Mrs. Goebel. Dr. Mihalik.
Here.
Dr. Meyer.
Here.
Mr. Moy.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will note that the board met in executive session prior to this meeting to discuss student confidential matter, school safety, and real estate matters. Recognition of visitors. If anyone would like to address the board, they may do so at this time. Correspondence, Ms. Williams.
Thank you. The following people emailed the board secretary regarding school safety: Melissa King, Jennifer Neal, and Janine Hunkley.
Thank you. Item 1.04 is a motion to approve the minutes as attached for the September 16th staff services and combined board meetings.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
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 Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Strategic plan. Dr. Miller.
Thank you. So we placed an item, the first item here, school safety and security. We placed this on the agenda, and as the board knows and community, we have talked about this topic really throughout each year and every year in terms of proactive strategies and then how we respond. The content that we placed here publicly, just as an update, starts with a background in philosophy, and one of the key pieces of that is our understanding that for learning to occur, we need to have a safe and positive school climate, and that when things happen, and those things that happen could happen here at Pine-Richland, or they could happen in the region, or they could happen in the country, those events raise feelings of concern and question and anxiety, and that is a natural part of that. And so, again, we respect that, we understand that, and as a district, we look at a wide range of actions to foster a culture that is both positive and safe for student learning to happen. The second piece is important for understanding around safety and security issues, and that is the public discussion. An example that we would share is every 2 years the board approves the emergency operations plan. Every 2 years the board approves the memorandum of understanding with Northern Regional. One part of that emergency operations plan is public. That's sort of the beginning portion without the specific detail. But the majority of our EOP is private and confidential because there are many topics specific to safety and security that should not be discussed in a public setting. That is not what is recommended by those with expertise in law enforcement, safety, security practices, and protocols. And so we included that concept just as a reminder to our public that we listen, and that listening happens through email communication or phone calls. It can happen here, but how and where some topics related to safety are discussed, the experts recommend that happen not in this type of public environment. Mr. Kenny is going to talk just a little bit more detail about some of our proactive strategies and also some of our response protocols.
Thank you. So, obviously acting as the Director of Human Resources and Legal Affairs with the district, I am also at the state level identified as the District Safety and Security Coordinator, who's responsible for overseeing safety and security operations and reporting to the state on an annual basis. So what we have done over the last 5 years has really been a multifaceted approach to safety and security at the Pine-Richland School District. As Dr. Miller just mentioned, obviously that starts with our emergency operations plan and the memorandum of understanding with the Northern Regional Police Department. Your emergency operations plan is really the outline of how we as a district, as administrators, faculty, staff, and students would operate under certain circumstances of emergency that occur within our buildings or on our campuses. And as Dr. Miller indicated, much of that plan is private and remains so that we do not publicize that and let others know how we would respond to specific circumstances. As for the memorandum of understanding with the Northern Regional Police Department, it sets a foundation as to how we as the public school district and the Northern Regional Police Department interact with each other as far as information sharing, assisting, reporting of incidents, and that collaboration and cooperation between our two entities. We trumpet and praise at every single instance and opportunity the relationship that we have built with the Northern Regional Police Department. It is, in our words, is second to none. We are in communication with and collaborating with them at every instance and every step of the way when an incident arises. Even if we do not believe it rises to the level of police, we will at times reach out to just verify, to double check, and they are cooperative, collaborative, and provide assistance as needed. Along with that, you see a very significant police presence on our campuses. At every bus arrival, at every bus dismissal, there are Northern Regional Police Department vehicles on campus and are there to support those transitions. On a daily basis, there are walkthroughs that are taking place with the Northern Regional Police officers so that there is a police presence. Students are aware of those police presence in our buildings and are comfortable and familiar with those walkthroughs. The police are doing nightly drive-bys of the buildings to ensure that we are in a safe environment and that they don't see anything strange. So from that perspective, having the Northern Regional Police Department with us, it couldn't be a stronger relationship, and it's one that cannot be overlooked because of that, the strength of it and the support services that they provide the district on a daily basis. Recently as well, we have had a safety and security coordinator position within the Pine-Richland School District for many years. However, within the last year, understanding the need for increased safety and security, particularly at the secondary level, we increased the number of safety and security coordinators from 1 to 2. The second one was added primarily to give additional coverage and security for the after hours and extracurricular activities that occur in the district beyond the regular and normal school day. Anybody who's been on our campuses in the after school hours understand it is a beehive here. There is stuff going on in the gym, the auditoriums, the classrooms, the library, out on the practice fields. And we've indicated that we needed to increase security by bringing on an additional safety and security coordinator to help with the monitoring of those hours. In addition, not only did we bring on the second safety and security coordinator, we increased security as it relates to our third-party provider, Marshall Protection, who now monitors our door access at the secondary level, at the secondary campuses after hours. Our buildings are now locked down in the evenings, and access to the buildings needs to be accomplished through a vetting process of Marshall Security, opening the doors for visitors, confirming why they are there, if there's an actual event going on that they're attending, to allow that access to the buildings. So we've attempted from a personnel perspective to also increase and bolster our security across the district. The safety and security coordinators, while primarily do spend a lot of time at the secondary campuses, do have district-wide responsibilities and travel to all of the other primary buildings, elementary buildings, to provide walkthroughs, do safety walks with the principals, identify areas of concern, and to make sure that those buildings are also prepped and as secure as can be. We've also worked from a buildings and grounds and facilitating construction within the district. We've constructed captured vestibules at all of our schools, which was not previously the case. So that individuals must have an access point into the main office instead of having free reign potentially into the buildings. We have looked at restricting access during the school day so that individuals in the community during school hours when students are here are prohibited from being on campus so that we know who is on campus and that there's a specific purpose for that. From a technology perspective, we've done a ton, whether that be for surveillance cameras at all buildings. We implemented a badging system for all visitors, an identification process. We have redundant communication systems, whether that be PA systems or two-way radios at all buildings, and interconnected phone systems across all districts. As always, it's important that we continue to run and operate drills throughout the system. So we run monthly lockdown drills, evacuation drills, fire drills, reverse evacuations. So if students are on the playground and a reverse evacuation is called, for example, they know what the process is to get back into the building as quickly as possible. We track those on a monthly basis to ensure not only just compliance, but also to make sure and do reviews after those drills to see if there's areas of growth where we can improve upon those drills and become more effective at their implementations as we go forward. We also train our staff on CPR and AEDs. We have training coming up on stop the bleed in case of an emergency and how to do emergency medical assistance at the time. Understanding that a lot of what goes into safety and security is the culture of the buildings that we live in and the community that we are in. We, for instance, understanding that mental health is a significant component to that. So we added mental health services. We've added a psychologist within the last 3 years. We've added school counselors within the last 3 years. We have student assistance programs initiated, up and running at every single level of our school district. And we also incorporated Holy Family. Holy Family is a third-party counseling services that are provided as an option to our families that is not connected to the district, but we provide them space to help provide a easy conduit and avenue for families to seek assistance and support if they need it, to try and help, again, continue to make that connection with our families. From a student component, we have developed over the last several years a safety and security curriculum that is embedded within the appropriate classes at all levels. And it is also appropriately designed at all levels to try and address those the main concerns around getting to know a trusted adult, appropriate reporting, if there are issues with your friends, with your family, with concerns that are going on in the building, to make sure, because that is the first line of defense for all of us. More than likely, if something were to be occurring, somebody's going to know about it in advance, and if that student takes the time to make that report, whether it be to an administrator, to a teacher, to a safety and security coordinator, those reports are exceptionally valuable. Not only to the trusted adult, but we've also been communicating and addressing the issue of the TIPS line, which has been promoted for many years here at Pine-Richland School District. That TIPS line is an anonymous source that goes directly to the Northern Regional Police Department. They can then act on those tips and are in communication with the district as those tips come in. Just last year was the launching of the Safe to Say Something program within Pennsylvania. Our students are starting to become more familiar with that program as well. That allows students through either text, through an app, through online services or phone to report concerns they have about students, and it doesn't have to just be, it can be a threat of self-harm, it can be a threat of bullying, it can be any number of topics that are called into those lines. It is an anonymous report. Students do not have to give their name. Those calls are screened and then ultimately identified and given to our Safe to Say Something team that's been identified at the state level, which is myself, Mr. Huswit, Dr. Paxson, Dr. Pasquinelli, and Dr. Justice. We then receive those complaints and then act upon them and investigate to help ensure that if there is a concern or something going on, that we are addressing that. Whether that concern comes in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or midnight on a Saturday, we all receive that call and are able to act immediately upon those calls, which has been a beneficial thing for us in this district and has been used appropriately by our students thus far. When that was first rolled out, we did not know how that was going to be in the rollout, but it has been, from our perspective, used appropriately and very well done. We also have the communication piece, which oftentimes is run through Ms. Hathorn. We try to get as much information out to the community as possible around the issue of safety and security. Those things that we have done proactively to try and build up that security within the district, to allow the community to understand what actions have been taken and what we're doing to try and make sure that our district is safe and secure. Even with all of those proactive steps, it doesn't mean that things don't happen within the school district, and they do. So in those cases where we have to be a little bit more responsive to a specific incident, we want to ensure and understand that every safety concern is taken seriously. We investigate every single concern to its utmost. We, first and foremost, will, with any concern, conduct a threat assessment. That is done in conjunction with and hand in hand with the Northern Regional Police Department to identify what is the threat, what is the level, what are our concerns, and what do we believe the next steps should be. And we take a lot of direction from the Northern Regional Police Department in those circumstances. We will, when appropriate, coordinate with other agencies, whether that be the FBI, Homeland Security, Secret Service, if it is called for and warranted, and that is all directed through our workings with the Northern Regional Police. In those instances where we have the heightened security due to a potential threat, the heightened security can include, additional safety and security on the grounds, heightened presence by the Northern Regional Police Department, both in the buildings and on campus after school hours. We use the video surveillance systems to make sure that that there's no inappropriate actions going on, or if there are reports, that we have the ability to track and review the conduct of our students during that period of time. When we get these types of incidents, and as we are in real time investigating, we understand the need and the want of many community members to get additional information or additional communication. There are times that cannot happen, but we try to be as proactive and forward and transparent in the communications that we give to the community. There are, however, understanding certain rights, both from a federal law perspective, for instance, FERPA, the Federal Education and Privacy Act. We cannot provide names of students involved in incidents, what are specific disciplinary actions that were taken with students that were identified. And so we understand the want for information, and we try to get as much information to the community as possible. But we are also constrained legally or otherwise from going that extra step that may be wanted. But we try to make those communications as timely and as timely and as informative as possible during these times of those events, and to wrap that up at the end of an event to say that we're returning back to normal operations. So a lot of this would also be occurring during times when our investigations are still ongoing. And again, not everything can be wrapped up quickly and easily, but we do our best to make sure that the districts understand where we are, making sure that students are safe when they're coming to school each and every day. If there's a concern at all, we obviously take steps to cancel school, reschedule events, cancel after school events, until we are confident that there is no threat, or that the threats have been mitigated, and to move forward. So,
Thank you.
any questions about steps taken or where we stand today? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the update. Dr. Justice.
So we just wanted to update you on the Joint Operations and Student Services Committee meeting that we had this evening prior to the meeting. The topic of that was the demographic study that we hope to conduct, and the potential, which we got consensus on this evening, for redistricting and the timeline associated with that. So this evening there were just 3 main points that we were gaining consensus on. In a moment I'll allow the board to comment on that additionally. However, we got consensus that we will update the demographic study to understand where we are in terms of enrollment trends, and then potential redistricting scenarios during this year, the 19-20 school year. So that was point 1, consensus was achieved on. Point 2, we did also achieve consensus that we will not be redistricting in 2021. We will be waiting until 21-22 when we will then enact redistricting. So those were the 3 points we discussed. I just want to allow the board a moment to comment on any of those things before we then move forward with the timelines as discussed. Any comments?
I'll just say, because I see a friend of mine in the audience who wasn't at the committee meeting, there is a long road ahead. Redistricting has to occur just because the numbers dictate it. So we're going to take our time and give the community many opportunities to share their feedback and input, and where the lines ultimately will be drawn, there's a lot of work to do for that to happen. So.
And this was, again, the initial point of that discussion, just to get these 3 pieces and the timeline kind of ironed out. The presentation that was given Senate at the committee meeting will be turned into a podcast and sent out to the community tomorrow, or within the next few days. We're shooting for tomorrow as a goal. And that will be the first in many communications, 2-way involved, including town halls, other forums, et cetera. So more information forthcoming, but that is where we are at this point.
Thank you. And it was quite comprehensive. I mean, all the information was there, so thank you for walking us through it. We have a number of action items on tonight's agenda. Item 3.01 is a motion to approve the personnel and transportation items as attached.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3.02 is a motion to approve an engagement letter with Dinsmore and Scholl for bond counsel services.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3.03 is a motion to adopt a resolution authoring the refunding of our 2012 and 2014 A series bonds.
Second.
Is there any discussion? I will be abstaining under the Ethics Act as my employer, BNY Mellon, is a party to this contract. All those other than me in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Please note my abstention. Thanks, Barb. Item 3.04 is a motion to approve the varsity baseball field improvements as attached.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3.05 is a motion to approve the purchase of replacement tractor.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3.06 is a motion to approve Troy McCurdy and Andy Duggar to attend the Great Lakes Planetarium Association Conference.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3.07 is a motion to approve Kelly Gustafson to attend the School Library Journal Leadership Summit in Baltimore.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? The motion carries. Mr. Kashani, Finance.
Item 4.01 is information. At the October 21st meeting, we will be approving some accounts payable and some paid accounts. 4.02 is also informational. And we're finally now able to do budget transfers, Dana. So we'll do some of those in October for approval. 4.03 will also ask for approval of the actuarial valuation report, which ties to our benefits liability. And item 4.04 is a reminder that we'll be having a combined finance and building and grounds meeting on December 9th at 6 o'clock.
Thanks, Mark.
My pleasure.
Mr. DiTullio, Buildings and Grounds.
Item 5.01 is an information item and that we will consider at the regular October meeting. A motion to approve in accordance with Policy 613 and cooperative purchasing roof repair work that will be performed by one of our CoStar cooperative partners, and the amount will be noted. Item 5.02 is also information, and it will be, again, for consideration at the October regular meeting. A motion to approve the advertisement for bids to the purchase of the tractor for the Pine-Richland School District Band as attached. Item 5.03 is, again, information that we will vote on at the regular meeting. Motion to approve the replacement box truck from Day Fleet Sales through the CoStar's cooperative purchasing agreement. I'm going to move that we have consent agenda for 5.01, 5.02, and 5.03 unless somebody objects from any of the information that comes up between here and then. I'll leave 5.04 out of that because 5.04 will be Again, voted on at the regular meeting, a motion to accept in accordance with policy 702, and with sincere gratitude, a donation from the Pittsburgh Pirate Charities for $7,500 for the high school softball field. And I think that we should duly note that separately and also thank the Pirates. And we're thanking them now, but we'll thank them again. And I think that one will pull out. And item 5.05 is scheduling of a Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting on November 11th, 2019. The topics will be the capital funding plan, the building systems, and environmental design. And anyone on the committee object to that date?
I don't object to the date. However, I would like to add an item. I'd like to get an update on the toilet room project.
The toilet room.
Yes.
Okay. As toilet room, that's
We'll
okay.
ensure that that occurs.
Thank
All
you.
right.
If not sooner, because demo has already occurred.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Demo day happened.
Could we hold the meeting there?
Live stream.
We don't
But
want
that
the
date-
agenda to stall.
That's
Thank you.
your second one
Thank you.
tonight. That was
That's
good.
pretty good. That's pretty good.
That day's good with me. Is it good with everyone else on the committee?
It's good.
in
It's
general?
good. Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, Greg. Dr. Meyer.
Academic achievement 6.01 is just a reminder of the academic achievement committee meeting that's scheduled for November 18th at 6 o'clock.
It's not too early to reserve seats. This is the big one, so
Right.
thank you.
You make it sound like the other committee meetings aren't as important.
They're all important. Dr. Campbell.
Student services, item 7.01, we have information item that the regular meeting in October, we'll have a motion to approve the site-based academic services agreement for Wesley Family Services. Item 7.02, information item, again, another voting item for October meeting. Motion to approve the student attendance and application student discipline code, the Air Force Junior ROTC students to travel to Parkersburg, West Virginia for a drill meet. We also have item 7.03, information item, motion to approve the attached list of PTO and booster organizations as recommended with our policy 915. And then we'll have a fourth voting item, another information item, which is a motion to approve the small gains of chance resolution as attached for 2019-2020 school year. I'd like to put all of those in consent agenda, like Julio mentioned, for those voting items, to come all together if there's no objections for that meeting. I would also like to add for the small gains of chance, have the boosters been reminded that they need to apply for this, the reminders are sent out to them?
We'll be sending another reminder out to the principals to, number one, to ensure and confirm that they've received that information, and that they will get that out. We will get that out to the boosters as well. Pruvo, the largest organization that covers the majority of our versus athletics, are aware of the deadlines, but we will be sending out additional communication on that.
Just want to make sure they've been reminded and
Yep.
they have them on board for the voting in 2 weeks. And then the last item we'll have, right now it's an information item, but we will be voting to accept a donation in accordance with policy 702. The Pine-Richland Aquatics Group is donating a strength system and storage cabinets valued over $5,000. So we're very grateful for that donation, and we'll be voting to accept that at the next meeting. And that is it for student services.
Thanks, Ben. And as a
Sorry, just a question on 702 and the TROTC. What are our numbers this year? I know it was very successful last year, but just curious if we can get an update on that.
Yeah, we're over 100. We have, I think, 26 students coming from Mars Area High School, so we're in a really good place for our OTC.
Thank you for that collaboration. It's very beneficial for us.
As a reminder, correct, Ms. Williams, that all those items will be combined into one consent
Correct.
agenda at the
Correct.
top, just so you know.
Separate the donation out as well. So we can
Right,
process that.
yeah, so we'll have that still under the 7 series, but that will be combined with the items Greg had identified on a consent agenda as well, so. Staff services. I'm a little behind on this. Greg, could you do that?
Item 8.01 is an information item for board consideration at the regular meeting. A motion to approve personnel and supplemental items or supplementals items as attached. That attachment will be provided before the meeting. Item 8.02 is again information for board consideration at the regular meeting. A motion to approve Beth Schenfeld, and Kelly Gustafson to attend the American Association of School Librarians November 14th through 16th in Louisville, Kentucky. Cost to the district will be $1,434. Item 8.03 for board consideration at the regular voting meeting. A motion to approve student teachers as attached. We have some from Duquesne, and I'm sure others will follow if applicable. And item 8.04, again, information, policy 918 is required for Hance Elementary because it receives Title I funds. The school receives the Title I funds, are required to conduct outreach to all parents and family members and implement the programs, activities, etc. Does anyone want to discuss this in more detail than what I know?
The Title I.
Yeah, we're required each year to review, the parent involvement policy. And we do that via a parenting group at hands-on, that's our target Title I school. And, through the meeting, we take feedback regarding policy, which is time there's not recommended for change.
Thanks, Guy. Nice pickup there. Thank you. Mr. Moy, Operational Services.
Sure. Item 9.01 is more informational. This will be a motion to approve the application of the Act 80 exception days as outlined in the revision of the academic calendar for kindergarten students to include the final 2 days of school.
If you'd like, I can put a little bit more into that for you. Yes. So in terms of, there are two components to this. So altering the calendar to allow kindergarten to attend those final 2 days will make the school attendance days for the kindergartners more congruent with the rest of the students in the district, which helps us with alignment of the days and also instructional hours calculations. So in addition to that, the Act 80 exception, we have in the past approved the second half of the parent-teacher conference days that afternoon, historically as a day that falls under the exceptions for Act 80, and we can obtain credit for the students that day for instruction. In addition to that, in a proactive way, as kind of a contingency planning, we are asking for additional days that are in-service days. There are 4 listed there in a bulleted sense that would allow us to gain additional instructional hours if necessary, should we need them. However, it is our philosophy that we do not wish to replace instructional hours with these days. We want to maintain the integrity of our learning and programming. So we will do so, but we'll have these in our back pocket, so to speak, if we would need them for something. So that's the intent.
Thanks, Dr. Justice. And then 9.01 is informational as well for board consideration at the October meeting. This is a motion to approve an agreement between Blackboard for a 4-year term from 2020 to 2024 for Blackboard Connect and Blackboard School Wires. Cost will be $18,408 annually with a one-time training fee of $650 for template implementation.
Thanks, Matt. Item 10.01 is a discussion information item. We had mentioned this before. Policy 004 regarding membership. PSBA has a number of recommended changes. We'd like to, although we have the 00s coming up for full review next year, we'd like to get this one in place in time for elections and the board calendar, which is really December year. In addition, Ms. Misbach provided some commentary and background on the clause regarding student participation in the school board. That is a PSBA recommended addition. We'll leave it there. Chris, do you want to add some color around your comments?
So when I had read that was the one addition that kind of stood out a little bit, and I just kind of looked online to see what other schools had done. So that's why, the first one is from the Schuylkill Valley School District, and that they added that second part of, that the student representative may have a seat at the board table but does not have the right to vote. Student representatives will not participate in executive session. So they were giving a little more detail on what can and can't be done, or that, that the student can do. Then the other was a discussion that was in a Peters Township in 2018, and there again was more about trying to outline or give some detail as far as what the student can and can't do if they're going to put that out there. And so then I just had some other input at the bottom for us to consider, as far as if we put this, approve this language in our policy, do we want to look at the student and what is going to be their role on the board, and give some more guidelines for them to follow? And then also, how would we introduce them to the board and make them feel a part of it, just like we all went through, the onboarding, and how would we do that with the student, and kind of looking at it ahead of time and not just having someone come and not knowing what to do with them.
I'd like to add that I serve on another educational board, and about 5 years ago we added a student member onto that board, and it's been very enlightening to have someone from that demographic and age group to give feedback as a non-voting participant. It's been just very beneficial, and we've seen a lot of value to it, and I think that's an interesting addition to our policies, and I'm supportive of adding that in as an option if the board agrees.
Did you have guidelines for them to follow so that they would know what they were responsible for, so that they were not like, I don't know what's going on?
They were thrown into it pretty fast, and they just they observed for the first couple meetings and then got more into it, and they were there more in an advisory role if we had questions about how the educational program was running, or what their perspectives was, or was on a program or an aspect of the program, as well as how to improve communications with recent alumni. What platforms are they using? If we want to get them involved with things more, what programs, what mentorship programs would be more beneficial, what career training programs would be more beneficial. So that kind of things in discussion and in board relationships with the students, to have a representative there to be able to ask and get that stuff in real time has been very valuable, rather than having to survey a large group and wait for feedback. We can sort of get things in real time in a way that's much more meaningful to the board.
Chris, in your research, did you come across how boards selected students who would serve as the board?
I did not look
rep?
at that,
Okay.
no.
And are there guidelines, and would we need to update these, policies to specify that?
Yeah, I have experience working in the district that had student representatives on the board. If this language remains and the board approves this change, it doesn't indicate it has to start, next week. So practically, for me, less about this particular language and more about how or does the board want to systematically look at student voice within operations. And a lot of the operations of substance that happen at committee meetings. And so I think for future discussion is, what does that voice look like, when and where does that voice happen? If you recall the social studies in-depth program review, one of the recommendations around the in-depth program review was around civic engagement, and one form of engagement is engagement in local governance, and what does that look like? So I think there are some real opportunities here. If it continues with this added in, I would just say that taking time to really be thoughtful about it would be most important to the success,
Right.
not only for those first months or days, whenever they might happen, but to sustain something over time.
And I'd just add, I think the board's well aware, we do quite a bit with student voice in this district in terms of making recommendations. They were part of the strategic plan. They're part of our in-depth program reviews. They're part of our resource evaluation. So we engage students in many different ways. We're very proud of that. So thinking about other opportunities is great, but we feel good about already the opportunities we provide students across many grade spans to be involved.
I just think it's important, and again, if we do this, is make sure that the students understand the expectations. We put a lot of time into this, and we want them to feel that it's beneficial to them, it's educational, but that also for us, that we make it a positive experience for everybody, for us and for them, and not that we feel that it's pulling us down. If we haven't set out the expectations, then that could happen. So I think that it's important that we take some time to.
Sounds like a board goal to me.
So I'm not, yeah, and I don't even know, I'm not convinced of the added value versus, so I'm convinced of the added value of student voice,
Yes.
student participation, whether it means staying here Monday nights till 9 o'clock, going through box truck, approvals is not entirely clear to me. But I split that question off separately from the question about the motion. And so I'm comfortable with the motion that, and maybe the slight change in the language I would make to that last clause would be, rather than the board authorizes, the board may authorize non-voting student representation on the board. And then I think that covers whatever we would or possibly could do. In terms of all the other stuff that would go around it, that's discussions to be had in conjunction with the administration. But I think that policy would then, great, it's in the policy. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
No, I agree.
Okay. Yeah, could you make that for our vote on that? There is other stuff in the policy, changes, but I think it's clarifications and rewords, so there's nothing, we're pretty circumscribed on that stuff by school code. We good? Okay. Item 11.01, reports. Christine, do you?
Yes. Okay. So for Beatty, AW Beatty Career and Technical Center, Career and Technical Education Center is having an open house on this Thursday, from 5:30 to 8 p.m. So students, prospective students, current students, families, community members are all invited to that. Also, Eric Heasley, who is the executive director at Beatty, will be speaking at the PASA, the PSBA School Leadership Conference, where we will be speaking also. If you haven't looked at under BeattyTech.com, they have a new website design. It looks really nice. It's very nice. So you might want to go on and take a look at that, and the link is there in the report. Beatty is looking at offering a new program called Surgical Sciences and Operating Room Technology, and the description is in the report itself, and at the bottom is attached the flyer that may be updated. Currently, there's not information on the website right now. They're still getting that together. So they do give an email that students or those interested can go to get more information, but there's that flyer or program information is not available yet. But it's to be, they're looking to offer that starting next school year. And they did receive a grant from PPG Industries for $30,000 to go towards their auto collision advanced computer programming and first robotics program. And then there's the enrollment trend numbers there. So they're, as of August, they were at 816, so it's gradually climbing every year. And that's full for all 9 districts. And then the other report is the prof.
Just before you go past that, Ms. Misbach, I just want to mention, as part of our awareness committee, we did work with Ms. Hathorn and made some modifications to our district website to increase awareness for Beatty opportunities. So if you go under academics, and there's a link to AW Beatty for families to get to quickly.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And then also, so the prof, I'm the liaison to prof, and prof is having their annual fall fundraiser on October 13th from 5 to 8 p.m. So if you're interested in going, you can go onto the website. The link is there, and purchase tickets. It's $50 per person. So that will be on the 13th on Sunday. They also received a $5,000 donation from Trumbull Corporation towards the EITC programming. So any of the PRSD approved EITC programs, that money can be used towards it. And also, I will let Dr. Pasquinelli or Dr. Justice speak to either one of about the potential grants. They, the two of them came to the prof board meeting and updated the trustees on potential grants for this year. So, or grant applications.
Hants Elementary had submitted an outdoor classroom grant, so it'll be kind of building off of what we've learned from the Wexford implementation and also kind of revitalizing the habitat that had been at Hants previously. So they're working towards that. It's about a $14,000 grant, so there are some big ticket items, if you will, that we're excited that the grants committee is interested in looking at and will be approving. We just submitted that this past week, and Dr. P has one for the middle school.
Yeah, in addition to that, I mean, we found through Prof, they introduced the FAST grants concept last year, which a lot of our teachers have taken advantage of. That's kind of a quick grant for less than $1,000 for new innovative ideas, and that is happening quite a bit. So we're happy to see that from our staff. Middle school, out of the gifted education and or highly achieving students program review, there's recommendations around opportunities for students. So the middle school team has some ideas on modifying a classroom right now that's a traditional computer lab and really recreating that space for flexible seating and learning, really around collaboration and problem solving. So to build on those critical skills for teams of kids to come in through our gifted ed program, and then general ed populations, special ed populations of students coming in, supported with our gifted ed teachers, to really just kind of revamp what a classroom could look like in a very non-traditional way to get at learning. So we're excited to collaborate with Prof on that. We've got a high school group that's looking at some extensions beyond a typical sensory room. So we have a sensory room at the high school for students in life skills and autistic support. They're working with Prof with some ideas to extend some of those resources within those spaces that, again, are supportive for students within our special education population, but even in general ed, on how we can integrate some learning for those students as well within those spaces. So we're excited about those grants. They're coming forward to Prof in the fall.
Great. So those grants should be voted on in at their November board meeting? Right. Yeah. So these are not granted yet, but they are possibilities. So.
Hopeful.
Hopeful, right. Thank you.
Fantastic. I have a brief update from the IU. I had the good fortune to attend a workshop this weekend. We do have one annually, and it's partly because we only meet once a month, about 10 months out of the year. So to spend more time with senior leaders of the administration and trying to just, again, understand the depth and breadth of the programs that the IU offers. Probably one of the more interesting highlights was actually getting details on the rollout of converting to Oracle as a financial reporting system, which, believe it or not, is exciting when you're a bond trader. And part of the reason it's exciting is because it hopefully, and this was the sort of good point of the conversation, is it's being levered and implemented in a way that the IU may hopefully be able to expand shared services to do things like run payroll or even take over accounts payable or accounts receivable for some smaller districts. And this is a service that they've stepped in to districts in the past and provided in a pinch, but it is very exciting to see them, taking an approach that allows them to also expand the services, and it could be quite cost effective for some districts. But on the scope and breadth, I'll give you one example. We were talking about our building. I think I had mentioned that it's recently a feasibility study. We were considering, do we stay or do we go? Do we renovate? And the board had taken action, a public meeting, to put some stuff away in capital and to engage in a multi-year capital plan to renovate the building and stay there. So we've sort of made that decision. But in the workshop, we were really getting information back. We were sort of trying to understand some of the ripples of that decision in the context of a potential refunding. And so it's very interesting. We have the opportunity to take advantage of shortening maturity debt or paying down debt. And here, if you think about paying down debt, we have one general fund, so it's relatively simple. We have over 90 budgets that have some form of surplus or fund balance. So if we pay down debt, we have to, 90 times, all right, pay up, you pay a little, which can be awkward and may not balance with where any individual program is. So it's complicated, and really it takes a number of hours to sit down with the administration to go through that material, to really begin to understand it, to help us when we ultimately deliberate and discuss these items at the public meeting. If we know one thing, it's from our demographic and redistricting talk, the more prepared you are, the more efficient you can have a meeting. So that's what we do in the workshops. So I thought I'd share some of that with you. Are there any other updates?
Do we want to have a report on the Athletic Hall of Fame? Just
Please.
thanking everyone who helped make that possible.
Yeah. So I'm happy to handle it. But so on Saturday night, and this was the cake topper to my weekend, I came back in Pine-Richland, and what a great way to celebrate a fall weekend and celebrate our deep history here with the Hall of Fame recognition dinner on Saturday evening right here in the cafeteria. We had about 150 attendees, numerous honorees. The work and commitment that happened was so evident. I want to thank Rachel, Mr. Simmons, the athletic director, members of the community who were on the committee, Mark, yourself, of course. It was just a tremendous evening and tremendous celebration. I've only lived here a decade or so, so to hear the stories and hear the reflections that go back many, many decades, and to know so many of those people are still in the district, or have families still in the district, or have kids going through the district. It was just great to make and see those connections. So just a great event, Rachel.
And we did post some information on the website. There's photographs, the bios, everything you want to see. Visit pinerichland.org athletics, and thanks to Dr. Pasquinelli, too, who also served on the committee.
And last but not least, the plans for displaying was just phenomenal, Doctor. I just thought the plan to get student involvement, not your typical display that you might expect. We're planning something that's interactive, involves students, and sort of like a touch screen, a navigated kind of display, which is really neat. That'll be refreshed every year with every new class that gets inducted. So really neat stuff.
Thanks, everyone. Any other items? Recognition of visitors. Would anyone like to address the board? Seeing how there is none, we're adjourned. Have a good night, everyone.
Chris, did you want to set up furniture? Do we want to set up furniture for tomorrow?